muy buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Sergio Soltero Gardea, soy secretario técnico de la Comisión Ejecutiva Bovinos Leche, y a nombre del ingeniero Homero García Layata, presidente de la Comisión Ejecutiva Bovinos Leche y también presidente de la Confederación Nacional de Organizaciones Ganaderas, les damos la bienvenida a todos los participantes, a todos los que respondieron a esta convocatoria. Y pues vamos a tener un seminario sobre el programa F.A.R.M, que es un programa de Estados Unidos de Norteamérica, que tiene dentro de sus actividades temas de bienestar animal, gestión del medio ambiente, de eficiencia productiva, etcétera. Ya veremos con más detalle todo esto y esperamos que sea de interés de todos los participantes o todos los que respondieron a esta convocatoria. Eh, eh, Es importante reconocer el apoyo para llevar a cabo este seminario de la Federación Nacional de Productores de Leche de Estados Unidos y del Consejo de Exportadores de Estados Unidos también, que junto con la contraparte de México, que son productores industriales agrupados en torno a la comisión, pues integramos este grupo de trabajo que sesionamos cada año en uno y en otro país para revisar y analizar pues, la problemática, las perspectivas del mercado de la leche y bueno, diferentes temas que están relacionados con ello. Entonces, sin más, les damos la más cordial bienvenida y les pedimos muy atentamente que mantengan sus micros apagados, de tal manera que la presentación fluya de una manera más pues, sin problemas, ¿no? Gracias.
Gracias, Sergio. Para los que no me conocen, mi nombre es Jaime Castaneda. Yo soy el vicepresidente ejecutivo de los productores lecheros de Estados Unidos y tengo el gusto, el placer de tener a colegas que son dedicados y trabajan específicamente. Los dos son doctores, veterinarios y con doctorados en diferentes universidades aquí en Estados Unidos. La idea de hoy día, como van a poder apreciar, es de poder presentarles este programa que nosotros implementamos hace muchos años, que fue a partir de una idea de que los que compraban la leche pedían constantemente diferentes cosas, requerimientos de los productores. Y la idea era de que en lugar de que cada comprador de leche tuviera su propio programa y su propio requerimientos, crear un solo requerimiento en el que todos los productores se apoyaran sobre eso y que todos los compradores de leche aceptaran eso en lugar de poner sus propios establecimientos de requerimientos. Y lo que vamos a hacer es, vamos a empezar con la doctora Megan Hain, y lo que va a hacer es que, como es una traducción, lo que va a hacer es de que va a parar después de que vaya a cambiar de un elemento de la conversación a otro elemento para ver si hay preguntas en ese momento de lo que ha conversado específicamente. ¿Ok? Entonces ella va a hacer esta pausa, va a decir preguntas y ahí en ese momento, por favor, levanten la mano, hagan, si no me equivoco, debería haber, también pueden hacer las preguntas a través del chat y si no, por favor, piden la palabra. ¿Ok? Bueno, muchas gracias. Megan.
Thank you guys very much for having me. And yeah, Jaime's done most of the introduction, so we will start right away. So as Jaime had said, my name is Dr. Megan Hain. I am Chief Veterinary Officer at National Milk Producers. And we will also have with us today, a little later, Jamie Jonker, who is Chief Scientific Officer for the National Milk Producers Federation. So starting out with a little bit of background, in the US, animal welfare for farm animals is not legislated like it is in many parts of the world. There are one or two animal welfare laws on the books. First is the Animal Welfare Act, but it excludes livestock. There's also a Humane Slaughter Act and a Transportation Act. Beyond that, there are a few state laws that cover particularly confinement, such as California's Proposition 12. So this is sort of the background that we're looking at within the US. In about the early 2000s, there were some animal rights groups that sort of stepped in and started creating videos that cast doubt by the consuming public on how animals were raised. So in response to this, the dairy industry decided that we needed to build a dairy welfare program to protect the industry's reputation and to reassure our customers. So several dairy industry groups came together to build the F.A.R.M program. So the first is National Milk Producers Federation, who runs the day-to-day program and who employs us. Also included is Dairy Management Inc., who funds the program through dairy checkoff funds and oversees the budgeting. And then also included is the Innovation Center, who worked to build industry support for the F.A.R.M program across the US dairy industry. These organizations working together were able to take the F.A.R.M program, which is a voluntary industry program, to the point that it is now adopted by 99% of the US dairy supply. So the F.A.R.M program stands for Farmers Assuring Responsible Management. The goals of the program is to assure customers and consumers of US dairy that US dairy farm animals, workforce, and land are humanely cared for. While we are going to focus mainly on the animal care program, which is our animal welfare program today, the F.A.R.M program also includes 4 other areas: environmental stewardship, the workforce development, our biosecurity, and then antibiotic stewardship. The animal care program is required for all co-ops that participate within the F.A.R.M program, but the other 4 are all voluntary. So the F.A.R.M program does several things, but it doesn't necessarily do everything. So it creates a shared set of standards and expectations for the industry, but it does not eliminate the risk for the industry, and it does not ensure perfection on all farms. So as a summary of the program, cooperatives and processors can sign up to participate in the F.A.R.M program on behalf of their farmers and their sort of patrons. The F.A.R.M program standards are set by subject matter experts and are based on science and best practices within the industry. This is set up, the standards are developed by committees that are overseen by the National Milk Producers Federation. Evaluations are conducted by second-party evaluators to identify achievements and continuous improvement opportunities. The program also is verified by third-party verifiers for the animal care program. The cooperatives and processors use this on-farm data and these points as a proof to their customers. And as Jaime said, the goal of this is to provide this for all of these cooperatives so they don't have to create their own programs. Looking at the structure of the F.A.R.M program, so the F.A.R.M program itself is run and pulled together by National Milk Producers Federation, but it's actually just a very small staff. But in order to be effective, we have partnered with the dairy cooperatives and processors in order to leverage existing dairy infrastructure and the staff to implement the program and to be able to reach the wider dairy industry. The dairy processors and cooperatives sign up to be a part of this program, and as part of that, they agree to conduct the evaluations on all of their farms and to meet the standards of the program on all of the farms. It is the cooperative field staff that undergo training and certification within the farm program standards so that they're able to go out and do the evaluations on the farms. So looking at the farm program standards, these are developed and reviewed every 3 years. The standards are built upon current science in each of the fields. They address customer concerns and implement based on sort of practices and common industry sort of best practices. Farm program standards are developed by multiple committees and technical task force groups, which are made up of farmers, scientists, veterinarians, the staff of the cooperatives that implement the program, and industry representatives. So we'll pause here and see if there are any questions so far on the overall program. All right. So we'll move on. So looking more specifically sort of at the animal care program, we will look at each of these sort of areas as a way to kind of give you a deeper understanding of how the program's sort of implemented and run. So looking for the farm animal care program, the written standards are based upon the 5 domains of animal welfare, which are made up of nutrition, the environment that the animal lives in, the animal's health, behavior, and then mental states. The standards are written clearly so that they are auditable. And the focus of the standards is to be flexible so that it can accommodate different farm sizes and farm types. In order to do this, we're focusing on measuring outcomes of good welfare rather than prescribing how to manage on the farm in order to achieve good welfare. The primary methods that we use to verify that the standards are met are looking at animal-based measures, facility-based measures, and looking at the documents and herd records. So the farm program, the animal care portion of the farm program has gone through a rather slow evolution. Part of the reason that we've done this is to give time for the farmers and the industry to get used to working with an animal welfare program. Even with the slow revolution of requirements, some of the farmers still have a little bit of a hard time accepting the need for the program. And I think talking to some international welfare programs recently, it's something that's shared across different countries. For the animal care program, these are our current sort of focus areas for the current version of the program. So animal care worker training, so ensuring that the personnel who are caring for the animals are trained appropriately to provide the necessary care. On herd health and veterinary engagement, so ensuring the health of the herd is met. Then on calf care and young stock, on non-ambulatory cows or cows that can't get up, on euthanasia and end-of-life decisions, and on fitness to transport. The current evaluation gathers 187 metrics, but of these, a third are mandated or required. These are the higher priority animal welfare requirements. We'll talk a little bit more about these as we're going through. So we talked a little bit about the farm program structure, but we'll now get into more of the specifics about how it works for the animal care program. So the farm program staff oversees the program. We work with the technical advisory groups and the committees to revise the standards. We build the program structure for training and certifying the evaluators, and we manage the database and the software that runs the program. We work with the cooperatives who choose to sign up to participate in the program and agree to meet the farm program requirements and to evaluate all of the farms within their supply under the farm animal care program. The cooperative field staff are the ones who are trained and certified as evaluators to conduct the evaluation on the farms that belong to their cooperative. This way, we're able to leverage a small team to reach over 23,000 dairy farms in the US. So this is a little bit more of a run-through of what the requirements are for the on-farm evaluations. Looking in more detail at what's actually covered in the evaluation itself, the evaluation is done once every 3 years on the farm. It is done by the cooperative field staff, so someone that the farmer knows. They're always announced, so the farmer always knows that they're coming. They start with the evaluation by reviewing the herd records, documents, and protocols. Then they will go out and do observations on the animals and the facilities and ask any questions of the employees that they need to clarify if the standards are met. They'll go through and verify from both the actions and what's sort of written in the records, what they see on the farms themselves, that each of the standards both match what the standards require, but also match what the farm has written that is their common management practice. At the end, they go through and record all the findings within the farm program application and create any follow-ups that are needed. To date, the farm program has conducted over 110,000 evaluations on farms through the US. Looking through at what evidence we look at to determine whether the standards are met, the key focuses for the farm program is to really look at evidence-based measures. So looking specifically at animal-based measures, are essentially what the animals are telling us about their experience of the environment and management that they're living under. Management-based measures, so what the farm protocols are, how the staff is trained, and how the farm is managed. And then resource-based measures, or what is provided for the animals in order to meet their needs. So looking through at the follow-up, any standards that are not met will result in one of the following sort of actions. So standards that are very important will result in an immediate action plan, which is the shortest action plan, and need to be resolved within 48 hours. The only standard that falls under this category is the tail docking standard. So we're not allowed to dock tails. The next category is the mandatory corrective action standard. And the standards that fall under this category are going to be much of your sort of important management standards, such as training for employees, ensuring adequate protocols for looking after calves, sick cows, euthanasia, and making culling decisions. These require a follow-up within 9 months. The next are the continuous improvement plan. This includes many of the standards that take longer to address. So things like the animal measures, for lameness, for body condition, and some things that take longer to evaluate, like whether a farm is keeping adequate treatment records. In these cases, the evaluator is able to shorten this timeline if they feel that the standard is more important, but they're not allowed to lengthen the timeline. For a farm that does not meet that timeline and address the standard that's not met, they go into a probation period of 2 months or 60 days that they have additional time to meet that standard. If they do not meet that standard within that 60 days, they're decertified from the program. And if the cooperative wishes to continue to be certified in the farm program as a cooperative, then they have to stop picking up milk from that farm. In this way, there are ramifications for the standards themselves, and it's a way to ensure that all of the essential standards are met. The farm program also conducts third-party evaluations on a portion of the evaluations that are done every 6 months. We select a random sample of the farms that have been evaluated within the last 6 months, and these farms are evaluated again by an independent professional auditor or a third-party auditor. We do this in order to ensure that the program has got integrity, that each of the verifiers are meeting the expected standards and are evaluating consistently on all farms. So reviewing what we've talked about for the farm animal care program, some of the key strengths of the program are that the standards are clear and robust, that the on-farm program is easy to follow and verifiable, and it's able to adapt to both larger and small farms because of the focus on animal measures. Finally, because there are corrective actions for the key animal welfare measures and there are consequences for standards that are not met, we ensure that the program actually has integrity. Farm program standards for animal care are also recognized or certified by the International Standardization Organization. They meet the World Organization of Animal Health Dairy Welfare Guideline standards. The program is also certified by the Professional Animal Auditors Certification Organization. At this stage, the farm animal care standards, as I mentioned, have been adopted by 99% of the US milk supply. The program has been recognized by over 85% of the top US dairy supply companies, and it's recognized internationally under the ISO certification. Well, I'm going to pause there to see if there are any questions. All right. So we're going to move on to talk about some of the other areas of the farm program, starting first with the antibiotic certification, the antibiotic stewardship certification. This portion of the program is for two things. It's voluntary, but it provides educational materials for farmers on appropriate antibiotic use. It provides materials in that for recording treatments, for ensuring that withdrawals are met. It also provides the US with an opportunity to build partnerships, both locally and internationally, to address antimicrobial resistance. Here are a few of the resources that are available on the sort of antibiotic resistance and that, and on sort of appropriate antibiotic use for farms in the US. Since this program started back in about actually 1990 for the antibiotic stewardship portion of this program, and that here are a few of the differences in the sort of milk residues in that that have been seen sort of across the US. So we've seen a significant drop from partially the educational resources that have been available through the farm program, but probably also because of just overall focus across the industry on appropriate antibiotic use. Looking next at residues for meat, there's also been a significant drop that's been seen sort of across the industry for meat residues for antibiotic use. Moving on to the environmental stewardship portion of the farm program. Some of the key focuses for the environmental stewardship, this is a voluntary program as part of the farm program. But the key for this is that we provide both an evaluation that can gather on-farm data to assess a farm's carbon footprint. This is a tool that's available for cooperatives, for farms, and for supply chains that are wanting to gather metrics in order to measure and improve their carbon footprint. There's also educational resources that are available for farms that are looking to decrease their carbon footprint in order to be able to look at potential ways to do that. Here are a few of the metrics of the farm program currently. As I said, this is a voluntary program, so it's not required like the animal care program. It's also a program that relies more on modeling so that cooperatives can choose to evaluate a portion of their supply in order to get an idea of what the carbon footprint is in different areas. Here also are a few of the areas that we're focused on in gathering data, sort of for enteric emissions or for carbon footprint on the dairy farms. There are multiple sort of industry partners in that both sort of utilize the data that's available from the farm program and that, but also sort of are focused on looking at their own sort of environmental footprint and decreasing their sort of carbon footprint over time. Moving on to the workforce development portion of the F.A.R.M program.
I'm going to pause there, Megan, one second.
Yes.
Sí, quería estar seguro que no había ninguna pregunta por parte desde el punto de vista del manejo animal y de todos los aspectos, lo importante que para nosotros ha sido que tengamos un programa tan eficiente, tan exquisito y que básicamente toda la leche de los Estados Unidos está incorporada en este programa, ¿no? ¿Había algo que resaltó, algo que les dio curiosidad? No hay ningún comentario. Okay. They're normally not this shy, Megan. So
We can pause it, at the
yeah.
end too and ask any questions that weren't clear.
Okay. Let's go ahead. Let's keep moving. Thanks.
All right. So on the workforce development, this program has got two primary focuses. The first is educational materials for farmers that are looking to improve their human resources support and employee training. The second is a voluntary on-farm assessment for cooperatives or farms that are wanting to know how they're doing and looking for ways to improve. Here are a few of the key values of the voluntary on-farm assessment and what they provide. Here are a few of our resources that are available for sort of on-farm sort of workforce development. Some of these are available both in English and Spanish. The workforce development evaluation is the newest of our evaluations, so there aren't as many that have been conducted. This evaluation was only launched in 2023, so it's just getting started. Now, last but not least, of our pillars is our biosecurity pillar. So the biosecurity pillar was launched in 2021. This is primarily just an educational and a resource focus. So the primary focus is develop resources and education for farmers that are looking to improve their biosecurity. There are two key focuses for the biosecurity: looking at everyday biosecurity, or the sort of biosecurity to help a farm with routine or regular diseases that would be present in that area, and to help prevent those from entering the farm or spreading within the farm. The second one is an enhanced biosecurity, which is focused on developing biosecurity plans for highly contagious diseases such as foot and mouth. This portion is more about pairing just in case. And that's the end. So if there's any questions.
Yo tengo una pregunta, Jaime, si me lo permites.
Por supuesto, para eso estamos.
Gracias. Creo que la pregunta que obligada es el costo de todo este programa. Entiendo yo que la parte del personal de apoyo, de los técnicos que están haciendo las certificaciones o las evaluaciones, provienen de un programa de la propia federación. Supongo entonces que todo lo demás tiene que ser un aporte de los propios productores que tienen que cumplir con los estándares, pero finalmente la pregunta es, ¿cuánto, qué cantidad o qué cantidad de recursos aplican, por ejemplo,
Buenas tardes. Quisiera hacer una
la
pregunta en español.
federación para este programa? Gracias.
Megan, just one second. Al señor Sánchez, un segundito nomás. Déjame contestar esta pregunta y después pasamos a usted. Okay? So, Megan, I mean, you can answer general. I
Megan,
mean,
¿puedes responder en general?
the basic answer is that
La respuesta más básica.
the I don't know who is actually why is it
Buenas tardes. Yo tengo una pregunta. Uno de los
sí
grandes
sí
problemas que
sí, pero
tenemos es
un
la
segundito.
rotación de personal.
Arturo,
Capacitamos al personal, pero el personal no.
Ya, okay. Díganle, a alguien le pueda comunicar, por favor, que estamos hablando. So Megan, as the question is, okay, where is the funds? I mean, whether it's national milk or anything, the funds are the same, come from producers.
Well, the cost is shared across the industry. So the farm program is only 7 staff, and then the group that manages the actual program implementation and training, that is covered by the checkoff, which is funds that come from sort of the dairy industry. All of the staff that actually do the on-farm evaluations are staff of the dairy cooperatives. So they're staff that would be doing other jobs as well. So the cost is shared across the industry.
¿Quedó claro, Sergio?
por supuesto, gracias.
Señor Arturo Sánchez, la pregunta que tenía, dele. ¿Le pueden unmute, le pueden sacar el mute al señor Arturo Sánchez?
Hay dos personas que tienen mano levantada, uno es Arturo y
Sí,
la otra es la doctora Rodríguez. Entonces vamos primero con Arturo.
claro, por eso. Pero ¿quién es el que está manejando lo que para quitarle el mute?
Sí, está activado, ya se le mandó la solicitud para que active su micrófono él.
Ah, bueno, ya. Entonces pásenle a la señora, la doctora Rodríguez. Carla
Adelante, Carla.
Rodríguez, dale, gracias.
Sí, listo, ya. Creo que ya me escuchan, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Mi pregunta, Megan, es principalmente en la parte de si podrías ahondar un poco más sobre la certificación en lo del uso responsable de los antibióticos. O sea, entrenan al personal en las granjas, también tienen recursos. ¿Cuáles son los puntos más fuertes en los que se están dirigiendo en esta parte?
Certainly. So for the antibiotic stewardship, the primary focus is on providing resources for farms to help to use antibiotics responsibly. So we have resources that provide withdrawal times for all of the medications, that cover which medications are allowed to be used within dairy and which are not. We have training programs and videos for staff to understand what's allowed and what's not. We have treatment record templates for farms to keep track of what treatments were given to cows so they can record that. There isn't a certification for antibiotic stewardship, but within the animal care certification, we ask about treatment records and whether the farm has been meeting the expectations. So whether the farm has had any violations for antibiotic residues.
Gracias.
A ver, a la señorita Moreno. Dele, por favor.
Hola.
Sí.
Sí, perfecto. Muchas gracias. Mi pregunta es, ¿cuál es la inversión inicial aproximada, tanto en tiempo y dinero, para poder implementar estos protocolos F.A.R.M y lograr la certificación?
So the initial investment for the farm itself is going to be more sort of time involved. And for them, it's usually going to be probably like 3 or 4 hours to go through in that and to develop the protocols and that are needed. For most of the dairy cooperatives, so the dairy cooperatives that participate within the F.A.R.M program, they work very closely with their farmers. So about 2 weeks before their first evaluation, they will go out to the farm and they will work with the farmer to go ahead and prepare those protocols so that they have them there available. Then they will do a follow-up with the evaluation, which takes anywhere between 2 and 4 hours, depending on the size of the farm. That evaluation is done once every 3 years, so it's not that much time involved. The cooperatives, on the other hand, will cover a lot of the expense of the program because they are covering the staff. So the same staff that will help with milk quality, that will help with other cooperative work, are also the staff that are certified to do the farm evaluations. So that is a shared cost which the cooperatives will cover.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias, doctor Arturo, por favor, adelante.
Muy buenas tardes. Me gustaría preguntar cómo enfrentan ustedes la rotación de personal. Es uno de los grandes problemas que tenemos en México. Saludos.
Is this staff turnover on the farm or within the programs?
The farm.
On the farm.
Lechería en la granja.
Sí, en la lechería, en la granja.
Yeah. So within workforce development, so within the part of the farm program that addresses workforce, some of the areas that they focused on there to try to address staff turnover is to focus on strong sort of education and support for the staff, so they at least feel comfortable that they're able to do the job that they're asked to do, to help farms to understand regular sort of human resources responsibilities, because farms are usually small businesses. So things like harassment protocols, disgruntled employee response, most farms don't necessarily know how to address that. So the F.A.R.M program provides resources to help to build those programs to help support their staff so that hopefully the staff are more comfortable with the job they're doing, that they will stay. The F.A.R.M program doesn't address salaries, which is potentially going to be part of what keeps people in a job. But we try and make it easier when they're in that job to do what they need to do.
Algo que quizás añadir a ese tema Es de que los productores lecheros, y estoy
Sí,
generalizando
muchas
porque
gracias.
es la gran mayoría de los productores lecheros. ¿Me estás escuchando? Do you hear me, Megan? Ya, sí. Ok. Es de que pagan muy bien. Aparte, dan casa y dan otros beneficios. Obviamente aquí en Estados Unidos no podemos negarnos el hecho de que hay muchas personas que quizás no tienen documentación apropiada, pero yo creo que la gran mayoría tiene una conexión muy cercana al dueño. Y yo escucho siempre la historia de los dos lados, del dueño y del trabajador, que se sienten, o sea, apreciados y se sienten como familia. No será el 100%, pero yo creo que el 70% de los empleados generalmente se quedan en una granja y establecen esa conexión. Hay un par de preguntas en el chat. Megan dice, existe like the minimum production to belong in the farm program. Y no, el productor más pequeño puede ser parte del farm program. Simplemente tiene que tener un outlet, tiene que tener un sitio donde vender su leche y que esa institución sea parte del programa. Eh, the next question, Megan, I have, yeah, I'm surprised about the question. I don't understand the question because it says, is it for dairy farmers? Yeah, it is for dairy farmers and it is es para productores lecheros. Después, la otra pregunta era, ¿cómo se establecen los precios de pagos de leche a los productores? Bueno, ese tema es completamente aparte del tema que estamos tocando hoy día. Encantado de hacerles un webinar de cómo se hacen los precios de pagos de leche. Es un poquito complicado, pero básicamente yo les digo es un precio de mercado. Simplemente que tiene una serie de otros mecanismos para asegurar de que las grandes empresas, por ejemplo, un Walmart, una gran empresa que compra mucha leche, no pueda poner un productor en contra de otro productor. Pero en general, de nuevo, feliz de hacerles otro webinar de cómo se manejan los precios aquí. Eh,
Jaime nos preguntan,
So,
¿los estándares que se utilizan, quién los elabora y con qué frecuencia se revisan o actualizan?
okay, Megan, that's actually for your committee, the standards.
yep. So the standards are created by several committees. So the first is a technical writing group, which includes veterinarians, farmers, scientists, the staff, and the cooperatives that participate, so that they know how the program's running on the farms. And then also sort of farm staff members, so myself as part of that. So we ensure that we have farmers as part of that conversation on that technical writing committee to ensure that we get the practical insights from the farm. The next committees are also primarily farmer-led that go through and actually approve the standards and approve them for implementation. So those are generally the groups that help to contribute to the standards. The standards are reviewed once every 3 years to make sure that they're meeting both the latest science, to make sure that we're fixing any issues that we find within the program as we're implementing it, and to make sure that we're addressing any sort of emerging concerns or needs.
Next question, Megan, is that if we have actually ever worked with another country and the government, the F.A.R.M program, and I don't think it has ever. First of all, this is not a government program; it's a private program. But anyway, what I don't remember. Maybe Jamie remembers something, but I don't remember.
No, we've had friendly conversations as part of like International Dairy Federation or with friendly groups like Pro Dairy, so the Canadian sort of dairy group, but more just conversations. We don't work necessarily with those organizations because we're just an industry group in that, not necessarily sort of consultants.
Sergio, creo que la pregunta es tuya de que si no cumplen los obligatorios no le reciben la leche. Nada más, sí, o sea, le dan muchísimas oportunidades al productor para que se ponga para que arregle los problemas que pueda tener. Se le da muchísimo. Megan quizás puede hablar de la cantidad de tiempo que les dan, de la cantidad de oportunidades y información. Pero al final básicamente no les da, no les reciben la leche.
Sí, quizá la pregunta inicial era, ¿cuáles son qué motiva al productor a entrar en el programa? Yo entiendo que
le
está
reciban la leche. Si no, no
exacto,
tiene
ese es,
mercado.
ok, ya, pues ese debe ser la principal. Y la otra pregunta que tengo es, a nivel de consumidor, ¿cómo percibe el consumidor este programa? ¿Hay aceptación? ¿Hay reconocimiento? Eso es una pregunta que me parece importante hacer.
Absolutely. So the key thing we've found is that there's been wide acceptance of the F.A.R.M program by the dairy buyers as a way to provide assurance for their customers. So they use the F.A.R.M program to tell their customers that there is oversight of all the dairy farms within their supply, and that the F.A.R.M program is assuring that all of those farms are meeting a set standard, whether it's animal welfare, in this case, or sort of other required standards. One of the things we've seen with regards to customers is fewer concerns and questions that are coming through. So it's hard to prove a negative, but there's definitely been less concern in the last few years than what we'd seen in the early 2000s. And I like to think that part of that is the work that the program has done to build trust again.
Señor Arturo Sánchez, ¿tiene una pregunta? Octavio, dale.
Muchas gracias, Jaime. Una duda. ¿Qué postura tiene F.A.R.M respecto al tema de los activistas que tenemos en contra del consumo de leche? ¿Existe, no sé, algún cuarto de crisis, algo por el estilo, que pudiera ayudar a revertir esta postura en contra del consumo de leche?
So we do have a process that's available for farms that have been accused sort of poor farm management or of abuse. So farms that have been caught on videos, we have a process to go in to do a full audit and assessment on the farm itself to make sure that if there are animal rights or animal welfare concerns, that those are addressed. If there's something severe, we will uncover that and address it. That also goes through that if there's no issues on the farm, the full audit will ensure that it's uncovered that there are no issues or concerns. The goal of our program, which is the Animal Care Concerns Protocol, is to create a framework and a standard approach to these situations so that we go in exactly the same every time, run through the same assessment so that every farm is treated exactly the same, and to provide assurance in that to both the buyer of that milk and the sort of folks that buy from there, that if there's issues, they're unearthed and they're addressed. And if they're not, that they've got the assurance that there are no concerns there. We don't necessarily wade into fights with activists on just propaganda stuff. We prefer just to create a program to provide assurance.
Ya, principalmente, Octavio, como dice Megan, el programa fue creado justamente o sea, poder contrarrestar muchos de estos videos y tanto así que se han reducido notablemente de lo que eran anteriormente, de que básicamente ellos, Megan y todo el equipo, Jamie, es como si estuvieran en un constante crisis mode porque nunca saben qué cosa va a aparecer y ellos, o sea, inmediatamente trabajan con la cooperativa, con el productor y más importante, con el que le está comprando la leche, ¿no? O sea, simplemente simplemente asegurarse de que están coordinando con todo lo que se debe hacer. El señor Sánchez todavía está con la pregunta.
No, parece que se quedó con la mano arriba, Jaime.
Sí, ok.
Tenemos dos preguntas
La
más en el chat.
pregunta, una pregunta del chat de Megan is about conventional production and organic production.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
The question is the standards, is that the farm program operates for both conventional and organic?
Yes. So the farm program is designed to work for different farm sizes, but also different management styles. So we have both conventional farms and organic farms that are farm program certified. So it doesn't replace the organic certification, but it's in addition to.
¿Quedó claro para el señor Ramírez? En el caso de la fuerza laboral, cómo se maneja el programa, la crisis que se ha generado por el tema migratorio, todo ese tema es más político, más que el programa F.A.R.M, que es más técnico. La manera como lo manejamos nosotros es a nivel de simplemente trabajar con los productores. Tenemos abogados que les dicen cuáles son lo que necesitan, cuáles son sus derechos. Si tuvieran un audit, ¿cómo se dice, Rodrigo? Eh, y de
Una
ahí
visita de
auditoría. Y si también pudieran tener una presencia de gente de la migratoria, del Departamento de Seguridad de Estados Unidos. Eso lo manejamos desde por acá, desde el nivel político, pero a los productores simplemente le decimos, estos son tus derechos, esos son los derechos de tus trabajadores, y les explicamos bien claramente qué es lo que deberían hacer y qué es lo que no deberían hacer. Octavio.
Jaime, nos llegó una pregunta. Preguntan si existe alguna diferencia entre un producto que lleva sello de Farm y uno que no lo tenga, es decir, si existe alguna diferencia respecto al tema ya del consumidor final.
Um, so there is not a label on the product itself. Where the difference is the buyer and the processor for that product can rely upon the farm program to provide reassurance for their consumers. So if consumers have questions about, how that milk is produced, what assurances there are, they can say we're part of the farm program. They can share all the information on what the farm program covers, and they can use that information to answer the questions from those specific consumers.
Thank you, Megan. Básicamente, no, porque, por ejemplo, importamos 300 millones de productos lácteos de México o importamos de Europa. Esos productos no llevan ningún... la diferencia es, como decía Megan, de que si hubiera alguna crisis, si hubiera algún problema, los que están vendiendo, los que están poniendo su nombre en ese producto pueden decir, esta persona fue algo que no estaba siguiendo las reglas y lo vamos a sacar si es que no cumple con las reglas, pero nosotros tenemos unas reglas muy claras, ¿no? La siguiente pregunta no la entiendo mucho, señorita Alini Moreno. No, de repente no sé si Octavio, Rodrigo, Sergio pueden aclararla.
Y yo supongo que va en el sentido del tema de sustentabilidad ambiental, de manejo ambiental, si hay manejo, si el programa ve dentro de los estándares este tema de manejo de residuos, reaprovechamiento de aguas residuales, eh, eso es lo que trata la pregunta.
Yeah, so the sustainability, the environmental stewardship standard is focused currently more on sort of carbon footprint. So waste management or manure management is covered under that program, and more methane or carbon sort of emissions from that sort of waste management. For the program, they're in the process of developing sort of the water utilization, so water sort of purification and utilization standards. So those are not currently part of the working program.
¿Sí? Creo que Arturo tiene un comentario. Adelante, Arturo.
Bueno, eh, yo creo que he tenido dificultades de la comunicación, pero señorita Rodríguez, ¿otra pregunta? Carla
Sí,
Rodríguez.
en la parte de lo de recursos humanos, o sea, lo de los trabajadores, en la parte de recursos humanos, ¿qué es
Doctores, me gustaría expresar un comentario.
lo que revisan y la parte de qué parte de seguridad les importa más o a lo que están atendiendo más en el programa F.A.R.M, ¿no? Por favor.
So with regards to sort of worker safety, there is a lot of resources that are available on sort of education. So both written resources, also sort of employee training, sort of videos and resources available on sort of whether it's equipment safety, safety around sort of manure pits, safety working around animals. So there's multiple resources that are available with regards to safety. In the workforce development evaluation, it also goes through to determine more what the farm is doing specifically for sort of education and for assuring safety for employees to give that farm an idea of whether they're meeting sort of common best practices for employee safety.
Gracias.
Arturo,
señor.
pues no sé qué
Bueno,
Arturo,
pasa.
no cerrado. Si le gusta abrir para hacer la pregunta, pero que tiene su mano levantada.
bueno, si no hay más preguntas, de nuevo, quiero agradecerle a Megan, a Jamie, que hacen un equipo fenomenal y que han logrado hacer este programa desde muchos años y que realmente está funcionando. Si quisiera alguno, o sea, la gran diferencia, por ejemplo, que yo siempre lo digo, es de que aquí en Estados Unidos tenemos cooperativas y las cooperativas manejan la mayor cantidad de leche aquí en Estados Unidos, ¿no? Hay muy poca cantidad de independientes, ¿no? De granjeros independientes. Entonces, a través de esas cooperativas se trabaja mucho todos estos programas y también con el apoyo de los 15 centavos por cada 100 libras de leche que pagan los productores para hacer todo este tipo de programas, no solamente de promoción, sino también de asegurarnos de que tenemos un mercado. Así que encantados y bueno, Megan, thank you so much. Jamie, thank you so much for being with us. Sergio, ¿algún comentario final?
Sí, gracias, Jaime. Bueno, agradecerles obviamente a Megan el esfuerzo, agradecerte a ti, a Rodrigo, al equipo de traducción por el trabajo realizado en este webinar y hacer el anuncio de que si alguien está interesado en recibir una copia de esta presentación, pues que nos lo haga saber por el correo o por el chat antes de que se corte la comunicación, o pues al correo donde mandamos la convocatoria.
Ok, perfecto. Bueno, muchísimas gracias a todos. Que tengan buen día.